G'day amigos and welcome to the Four Diego's Hot Topic. I'm Rodrigo Rodriguez. With me today is Carlos Alberto Diego and Warren Diego. I'm sitting in the middle because I think there's going to be a fight today. But but anyway, let's talk about Australia and, Australia in the World Cup qualifier against Japan. It was a 1-1 draw. Great result for the Australians. Some of our best players, Carlos, Timmy Cahill, Mark Schwarzer, of course, Lucas Neal, some of the older guys, right? So the problem is, Carlos, I've got a bit of an issue. And I think you have too. Are we going to be too old at the World Cup? Because I think we're all in agreement that if we play like we did during the week, we will qualify for the World Cup. The question is, are we too old in 2014? Well,
they were heroes. I mean, we expected after the game against Oman that the old decrepit legs would kick in and suddenly they were going to play poorly against Japan. And Holger, well, the tough decision would have been made for him, but the guys just stood up. The spirit of that side is unbelievable. These guys are legends. Lucas Neal, Mark Schwarzer, Timmy Cahill. You got Sasha Alganowski, Marco Bresciano. These guys are fantastic players, but 2 years' time, we're talking about them going to be 34, 35 years old. The average age of the other night was 31. The big question for me, and I'm intrigued by this question, what's Holger going to do? He's smart enough to know that the romantic Carlos, who would like to see these 36-year-olds to play in this World Cup and having a whole team of them, is probably not the right way to go, but the pragmatic Holger will probably look for ways of introducing younger guys. But if the best players, Warren, are the older ones, what are you going to do?
Well, of course you're going to play them, Carlos. It's simple. I mean, unless you told me your age, I wouldn't know it because I've never seen your birth certificate. I mean, and that's really what we're talking about
but
here.
Can they perform this way in 2 years' time?
Of course they can. They proved, Carlos, in the last 72 hours, in the last week, they've proved that they can go from one extreme condition to another extreme condition and get results. If these results were transferred into a World Cup, Australia would be sitting on 2 points, having played 2 games 3 days apart, and would go into the last game exactly like it was 2 World Cups ago, being able to qualify. In fact, both World Cups in terms of qualification. I just think that there's 2 aspects. If they're playing well, they play. If they're uninjured and they're absolutely at the top of their game, and that's about
which is what's happening now.
That's about preparation.
We know about Holger that he wouldn't be playing them, and Tim's been on the receiving end of this. Timmy Cahill, not being a regular for the last 6 games, brought him in, play the game of his life.
So he's got the edge with the players, hasn't he? He knows how to push their buttons and motivate them and get the best out of them. I was just saying to you before we started this that the Confederations Cup is a huge missed opportunity for the sake of 1 goal. Imagine being able to play that competition, blood half a dozen players that may sit on the bench or be able to come on and be able to deal with that pressure. I actually get a sense that Holger has an idea of who the next 6 players are from the substitutions that he's made. Robbie Cruz. Now, if you had asked me Nikita Rukavica would have been one of the substitutes in that game against Japan, you would have scratched your head and gone, no way, that's not the case. So I think he's got a sense of who are the next 6 players.
But the big problem he's got, Warren, is his best 6 players are Mark Schwarzer, can't drop him.
No.
Lucas Neal, he was impassable he's faultless the other night, can't drop him. Timmy Cahill, the way he played, no problem at all. I think he's a guy who's going to now push for selection every game. Harry Kill was not so good against Oman, but he hadn't played in 3 months. He was brilliant against Denmark. You cannot, at this point in time, justify leaving these guys out. But how long, Warren and Rodrigo, can he go? Because the call has to be made at some stage, and if it's done in the World Cup and he gets it wrong, and we perform poorly, it's 4 years down the drain, I believe. Anyway.
So, I mean, I know you subscribe to the fact that if you're going to go to the World Cup, you need to at least play well. You're right?
You need to win some games, not even play well. You need to get points and at least have a plucky effort. 2010 ended up being a plucky effort after a poor start. 2006 was fantastic for the nation. If we go there and get goose eggs from 3 games and play poorly, that is a disaster for our game.
The average age, if you take the average age today of 31 and a half, that was the team playing in Oman. Yeah. The average age could be around 33 years old.
That's what we're talking
at the World Cup. Are we being ageist, Warren, or have we? And you made the point. You kind of made the point just before. Have we got that core group of 24, 25, 26-year-olds coming up, and should Holger do that right now?
Jury out on the next group of players, no doubt, because many of that group of players has left the shores and aren't playing a lot of games. Nikita Rukovic is actually playing more than a Robbie Cruz
But before
or
that,
whatever
you've forgotten
else.
about someone like a Nathan Burns.
Yep.
Nathan Burns, someone like a Reece Williams.
Yeah, now they've
Chris
played,
Hurd,
Carlos.
yeah,
They've
yes,
played.
but are they? If you talk about them being players who can come in, yes, they can. Reece Williams, fullback, maybe a defensive midfielder. Chris Hurd, another defensive midfielder. The other one, Nathan Burns, is an attacking player, but can he displace any of the 5 or 6 attacking
No,
players?
you're not looking for them to do. You're not looking for them to take the place of these other guys, because if these other guys are playing, they play because they're better. But you are looking for competition for spots, and if the injuries come, you're looking for guys that can step in. If you have a look at even the game against Japan, we're looking at a Mark Milligan coming in and doing a fair job. We're looking at a Jade North playing in Brett Eminen's position and doing a job. There is more depth from that second tier, and I actually think that if you have a look at the fact that probably when it comes to the World Cup, we may have 2 players playing in the Premier League in England, which is far less than what we did 4 years ago or 8 years before that. But somehow, playing in Saudi Arabia or playing in the K-League or the J-League, it seems to be suiting some of our players. And maybe a Tim Cahill, for instance, if he goes into that, less games, a little bit less pressure, maybe the longevity and the wear and tear is a little bit less.
I think Alex Brosk is a perfect example.
Yeah.
The guy, when he was in the A-League, you thought he was really just meandering along a little bit. Then he got this opportunity in Japan, and he has not looked out of place.
And the Japanese were worried about him and marked him very closely.
And let me just say, he might be the example that Holger's setting just to give a guy a little bit of a nudge, and suddenly look what he performed. He was one of our best the other night too. So maybe in certain circumstances, he's just got to give someone like a Reece Williams 2, 3, 4 games, someone like a Nathan Burns 2, 3, 4 games, give him some love. Give him some. Holger in a press conference after the game turned around. He goes, when he was asked about Tim Cahill's performance, and he goes, "I don't like to talk about individuals, but Broski was excellent." So you can see he's really probably trying to encourage the next rung, because I think he knows in his heart he's going to have to need them.
And I sometimes think that we overestimate our opposition, particularly in places like Europe and South America to some degree, and we underestimate our ability. You take out the Germany game from South Africa and look at the competitive nature of the Australians coming up against 10 men in that second game and then winning the last game. If we draw the right group, if we draw the right seeded opponent and then get a mix of European nations like a Greece or a Ukraine or one of those, possibly.
San Remo.
But I think we overestimate some of the opposition and underestimate ourselves. And draw the right group, and there's a chance of getting through to the knockout phase.
So, guys, one of the signs of age or getting older is being cranky. Right, and there's one guy in particular who I'm actually scared to ask a question of, and that's Tim Cahill. Even after the game, after he gave Mel McLaughlin a lovely little peck on the cheek, she didn't know what to do. But
she was slightly aroused, I think.
Off camera, she was just wiping his sweat off her face.
Absolutely. Poor, he smells. He gets cranky, doesn't he, now? What's going on with our Tim? Just quickly, Carlos.
No, I love Timmy. I love Timmy. Look, I love the response. You can get cranky, but just respond on the field, and he did. He was fantastic. But you can't deny it was his best game for Australia under Holger's reign.
Since Japan. Guys just loud.
Under Holger's reign, it's been his best performance. And look, you put 2 and 2 together, he's not automatically picked under Holger, but if he plays like that, he will be. And that's where you put pressure on the coach. He knows that. And he's been pretty good. He's been a bit antsy, but he's been pretty good.
Yeah.
But look, just to wrap it all up.
Wrap it all up, Carlos.
I think there might be a chance for this. I might be sort of slightly agreeing with Warren here.
Ooh.
This chance where you go. People talk about it's a squad game. With tournaments, it's a squad game. Well, the fact that you can take a Harry Kewell off the bench and bring him on the last 15 minutes in a game where there's a chance to get a goal in the World Cup. in the group stage, and he's running around 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Harry could probably give you something. Someone like a Bresh also. So you might have to sort of massage these guys, see them through, and just use them sparingly. But it's a big risk because then you're relying on the next rung of players, and if you haven't given enough game time during the qualifiers beforehand, you could be in trouble.
I'm slightly uneasy sitting in between these two when they're in violent agreement, but
I'm just checking Twitter to make sure Carlos has got all these facts right.
yeah, you need to check your facts, Carlos. Anyway, look, that's it for this.
I did not put them up to that, okay?
That's it for. I think I've lost my place now. Hey, that's it for this week's Hot Topic. We'll do this Hot Topic to death, I think, before the next World Cup. But until next time, ole!